Ebenezer Safodu. I'm a business strategist and a data specialist. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm here with James Andrew. Last week I interviewed him. We talked about careers in data, and we spoke extensively about how to start and how to get yourself a job and also be an expert. Today he's here with me to discuss what I always love talking about, which is Power BI, the tool that I'm pushing because of its ease of use. And today we are here to discuss the latest trends in Power BI and some use cases and how best you can use it in your industry, because we always focus on the industry use, not just you having a nice to use to. So welcome back, James.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Wow. I will not ask James to introduce himself into details again because you have to catch the last interview. All right, James. So I'd rather ask this question. How did you find Power BI?
Initially, at the start of my journey.
Okay.
Yeah,
so how did you get to know about Power BI?
Yeah, so I found Power BI. I was working in supply chain in the oil and gas industry, and we had data stored in SAP. So maybe not your usual, but we tracked our inventory through SAP, and we had issues.
SAP HANA or the...
SAP HANA, yeah.
Okay, 400.
So a cloud inventory system, and we needed to visualize it, and we also had to unite two different native stock systems, and from there the sort of possibilities just opened, and I learned more, and I gradually went from maybe a more computer science background in Python to coming into BI and fell in love with it. And I think that's what's really interesting. Most of the people I know who work in BI either came from maybe accounting, finance, or supply chain. And this is what's great, and people need to remember, it's actually a business discipline, even though we use some very technical tools. So yeah, that's how I got into the world of Power BI.
Wow, that's great. I mean, very useful way of actually getting into a new career. All right, so what's new with Power BI, and especially with the May update? What is new and what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so the big idea, the big deal, the big one that everyone's speaking about from the latest feature update is field parameters. And it's sort of taking away the dependency we maybe had before on things like disconnected slicers and changing measures. So it becomes very easy to visualize different dimensions or measures together. And there's going to be a lot of different use cases that comes from that. I was excited to see error bars now available and things like combo charts. Error bars, very useful. People have used them in Excel for some time now. And from the feature release, another small thing, canvas zoom. And I was thinking about this the other day. We're maybe looking at 7 or 8 years we've been waiting for a canvas zoom, but it's here now. So that's good. Very basic, but it's something that needed to be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we of course more lately have things like PowerPoint and Power BI. Ebenezer, I saw you were showcasing that, and you were one of the first guys to showcase it. So you must have just been waiting at the computer, ready to do it.
Perhaps I knew about it the day before, so I was just hoping to get it out there. I even delayed.
Yeah, and data marts is another big one. But I think it's going to come with a lot of really technical architecture, things that we need to be aware of. So I think that's going to be evolving. And we spoke about there's going to be someone who's probably going to be an authority on it, and then we can flock to them.
Yeah. All right. So let's take it one. I think one other thing that we've seen is the integration of Power BI with Outlook, which now means that you could view your Power BI with Outlook. I'm going to do a video on that. I've seen Cabal do that with Pozuelo, and there's too many ifs. So I'm trying to understand really in the documentation what it is and what people can actually do with. I mean, the philosophy of Microsoft is to make data accessible to everyone every day's job. So you could see the philosophy of having all the systems that or the tools that Microsoft is offering integrated with Power BI, i.e. Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, SharePoint, I mean, all the other Microsoft offerings. And I see Power BI being at the center of their data strategy to make sure that it's able to integrate to Azure, Synapse, I mean, all the other offerings that Microsoft have. All right, so we were talking about this earlier on. Can we go into field parameters, especially that one for now, and then show us what best use cases we can use field parameters for?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a general overview, I think in terms of field parameters, previously, if we wanted to display different dimensions or measures, let's say we want to view our sales in a certain visual, and I have a video on this, if we want to maybe go into things like to view that by products, categories, and so on, and select that within a slicer and then visualize it, it became quite a long process because we had to make disconnected tables, and this is something that I think is going to save a lot of people time because it's something that I think we probably do quite a lot. So I'm waiting to see. I think Chris Webb came with quite a creative solution. Baz from How to Power BI had an in-depth video, but he was still covering a lot of the sort of regular use cases. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves from just your standard showcasing dimensions like products or whatever, and how we move forward and make our life a bit easier.
Okay. Can you demonstrate one of your use cases to us?
Yeah, well, let me see if I still have the file up here.
Great.
Okay, so close that down. This is something that I prepared earlier, as we might see in a cooking show. So, I mean, like I said, traditionally, it was a bit of a complex procedure if we wanted to make things dynamic that were grouped in a specific dimension, like customers, products, regions. So here, I've got sales, my company sales, and I can dynamically create a slicer with field parameters where I can actually dynamically change the layering of my visual. So here I've got sales by product. I go into my item here and I can see it by actually my region. So I can then drill into my country. I could employ some visual layering, go deeper off this visual, get into a tabular view. And again, this actually could apply to dynamically changing a table. So if we had total sales, yearly financial figures by parameter, total discount, profit, and the way that we actually do this, it's quite clever. So if we were to go into our modeling tab, and you would be able to find your field parameters by going into a new parameter, and we don't want numeric range, we want a field. And we can then begin to just name our parameter and begin to pull in different things from our data set that we want to look at. So we could bring in customer, we could bring in the product, and this might be, we'll just say sales parameter. And it's quite interesting because when we do this, we get a default slicer added to our page. I've got it here. And you'll see that what happens is when we create this, we get a few different items. So we get our sales parameter here, and this also should generate a piece of DAX code behind the scenes as well. So I get I can actually even go in, and this gets pulled into a slicer, and I can do things like adjust the ordering that this would appear in. We get a few different items here. As you'll see, we'll get a sort of a calculation here, and it breaks it down really well. It brings it into our modeling tab. Ignore the duplication I have here because I created it earlier.
Yeah.
But in terms of the actual how this would look to the end user, it's just really efficient for moving between different dimensions and aspects of our business data.
Wow. A quick question that I had. If somebody has created a parameter, how do they edit it? Would they have to go and write the code again with names of and add on?
Yeah, no, well, that's a very good question. And you can actually edit it directly within your DAX formula bar. So we could actually just go ahead and if I
Maybe region.
Yeah, we can actually just specify a name. So I could type region, and that's just going to be the column name.
There's no comma after that.
There we go. Yeah, we can specify a column name, and then we could go in, we can use this name of keyword here, and then we could actually just go in, potentially select region, like you said, and then I can give it the specific ordering. Just let me close this off there. And then I can give it the ordering of 2. So it's going to appear the third item down the list. Remember, we're going to group things starting from 0 in any language. And then we can close that off. And what will happen if we were to pull this back in, this slicer, well, I would actually need to remember if you're doing this manually, you would need to pull it into a slicer. If we were to reuse it again, you'll see that we now have region available. So it's really interesting because you get a sort of series generated behind the scenes within DAX, and we can go in and edit it. So although it's quite a simple process, it still gives you some amount of flexibility, which is nice.
Yeah. I mean, this is useful when you're doing presentations and you want to stay on the same table without using the old bookmarks and buttons. To actually flip between these. Well, using it in slicers, make sure that whatever you filtered already is there. And that's a very useful feature. Right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they're definitely, investing a lot in the technology, making our lives easier, and it's an encouraging sign in the future of these releases.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me believe that what they want to do by end of year with DAX being automated, I believe that was going to be a given. I mean, people were scared of how is that going to be possible, but with the release of field parameters, makes it clear that, I mean, this is possible. Perhaps, for instance, new customers, if you want to write a DAX for new customers, there's already one for the quick measures that you could actually use in creating new customers, but your table has to be in a particular format, or your model would have to be in a particular format.
Yeah, the natural language DAX is an interesting one. I think it's controversial. In some ways, what I find interesting, because we previously spoke about entering the industry, is people are still going to have a base knowledge of DAX. Otherwise, how do you know the outcome is the right outcome? So if you don't have that foundational knowledge, you could be making something, but you're not terribly sure if that's the right thing. So I'm going to find it interesting to see how they balance that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's exciting.
Yeah, but I would say normally there is a lot of, anytime there's a new technology, the old guards are always thinking that, this is going to clear too much and people are not going to learn. But always and always, it seems we are proving wrong that people can start anywhere. I mean, today, people do not have to learn logarithms to be able to use calculators. They still get away with it. They know that a calculator would work over time. So perhaps over going through some iterations, there'll be a balance and everybody would find his feet.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a great use of the field parameters. Like he said, he's talked about the error bars in some specific charts. The data math has been released using PowerPoint in using Power BI and PowerPoint that we've actually established in my video that is on my channel. Also, my next question would be, what would you like to see in Power BI in the subsequent releases?
That's a very good question. I think the natural language DAX is one that I'm looking forward to seeing. What I would be interested in is, I think Power Automate and Power BI work quite well together, and I like the ability to be able to automate my tasks without going into Python. And I'm pretty fluent with Python, and that's great. But in certain enterprise situations, it's just not an option. I do still find Power BI and Python Power BI and Power Automate a bit restrictive. And I think there could be more flexibility with things like APIs as well. So I'd be interested to see how that relationship is pushed. But as usual, the Power BI product team have so many things that are suggested. I think even Canvas Zoom had 1,000 thumbs up on the ideas forum a long time ago, and they just get around to it. But yeah, for me, it's about the continual journey, and it seems like the feature releases and the latest releases are getting more and more close to where we want things to be. And it's clear that there's a constant investment going forward, which again, we've invested a lot of time in Power BI, so it's really encouraging for us that it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Very true.
Then we have to go and start panicking and learn Tableau, don't we? But no, it's yeah. I like the momentum right now.
Yeah, I mean, big ups to the product team. I think Arun is doing fantastic with Power BI. And personally, I think I'd like to see more AI features in making it close to what R can do, decision trees, random forest, some outlier detection, higher level AI stuff that would make it easier for people not to go to R or Python to run codes before some easy things could be done in Power BI. One other thing that I would like to see is bridging the gap between PowerPoint and Power BI. It's still too far away. Using the buttons and some of the shapes, if it could be made easier in terms of designing. I think they did well with the button and the actions that I think there was a new button creator that helps you be able to check the navigation pane, which actually was good. But I think they need to bridge a lot of gap between how to design in PowerPoint and designing in Power BI, making it quite flexible. And also, I would like to see the enter data quite mimic Excel. It's still quite hard using the enter data function.
Yeah.
We see a bridge between PowerPoint and Excel also done easily. I think these are two things that I'll be looking out for in the AI features in the future.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your opinions on, you were playing around with Power BI and PowerPoint, because it's not something that I've specifically spent a great deal of time in, just I don't have the use case right now. So I'd be interested to hear your feedback there.
Today I saw a man do something fantastic. So the Power BI integration is such that he still has some PowerPoint, some space to actually give room for a lot of text and like design whatever he wants to talk on the left pane, and then scale the Power BI report, let's say a particular page on the right. So it's more of the graphics, the graphs, and the storytelling on the right, with still his text and the headers still in PowerPoint. That's a good use case. And perhaps maybe you want to talk about one issue at a time. Let's say instead of using fields and parameters, you could actually have sales on one particular page in PowerPoint, and then the revenue in or profit in another page. So, and then you have your writings by the side, let's say, instead of using smart narratives. But I think in the future, if they improve upon the features in Power BI in terms of making building reports easier, the use cases for PowerPoint will be minimal. Maybe perhaps it's just because old habits takes time to die. That is why they believe the executives still are used to PowerPoint. Though, so why don't we just give them what they want?
Yeah, and I think that's why I haven't used it, because our strategy right now is really to gear towards self-service. So enable our users in the organization to, do this analysis themselves. I don't want to have to go into a meeting and present to a board member on a PowerPoint slide, this is everything that we're trying to do. And it's just, we speak about being efficient. So, but there are a lot of organizations that are just wired that way. So I think that will be helpful. But like you say, it'd be interesting to see how design merges, because most of my design in Power BI, if I'm going for a really nice design, I mean, how much time do we spend in external sites or on external tools? Even things, if you want to wireframe, you might use Figma or Adobe, or PowerPoint.
So let's see how it goes. I think the future can only be exciting whenever I speak about Power BI. Let's see what new updates would be. All right. So I think it's been interesting chatting with James on the new features on May update. Perhaps we'll make this a regular monthly feature, that anytime there are new features, we discuss it and the way forward, so that we can help both our viewers in understanding what is going on, especially probably have better use cases for them and discuss which ways they can use it. All right. So it's been nice having you, James.
My pleasure. It's been great to be here and talk to someone who's as passionate or more passionate than me. So yeah, it's been good. If I try and speak about these things at home, I don't get much response. So yeah, it's nice to speak to someone who cares.
I have same here, so don't worry, we're in the same suit. So viewers, hope you loved our interview. Try to subscribe to our channels, Matador Software and Ebenezer Software, as well as Eureka Business Intelligence. We hope to bring you the best of content to help you navigate your area in data analysis and Power BI.